I left a 14-year marriage. This is not an easy video for me to make, but it is one that I feel that is necessary because I know there could be someone out there that might be going through something very similar, or maybe they're in the same type of marriage that I was in. And sometimes when we don't really even know. I was married for 14 years. And for most of those years, it wasn't a loving relationship. It was awful. I literally was surviving day in and day out. So I married my first husband when I was just 18 years old. I was super young. I had just got out of high school. I'd graduated, I think, in June. And I ended up marrying him, I think, in July or August. I was just 18. I had turned 18. And like a lot of young women that come from a family of chaos and just unhealthy relationships, you're taught to believe that, love is can be painful, that you sacrifice yourself for the person that you're with. I thought that I had to be quiet and that I was being strong and I had to be loyal, even though everything that I truthfully was going through was so painful and it was so hurtful. So the abuse actually didn't start all at once. It was a very wild ride, per se. It came on really slowly. It was things that I didn't even recognize at the time were like a form of abuse. It was controlling my phone, controlling the bank account, controlling where I went, controlling who I talked to. Then it was verbal attacks, telling me things like I wasn't good enough, I wasn't worthy enough, I was fat, I was ugly. Then that turned into physical violence. And some of the physical violence was brutal. And the emotional abuse behind it, I believe, was a lot harder than the physical abuse, because the physical abuse, all of that healed. But I was left with years of emotional and verbal trauma. I mean, there were nights that I felt like I couldn't even breathe. I was afraid to go to sleep because I wasn't sure if I was going to wake up the next day or not. There were a few people that kind of knew what was going on. But for the majority of the time, not many people knew what was happening behind closed doors. That's because in my heart, I felt like I knew better. Like I knew that I shouldn't have allowed these things to happen. And if anybody truly knew what was going to happen, they would say that I was weak. Or they even, some people in my family said, well, you deserve that. And because of the shame and the guilt, I stayed. And the pain of staying, I thought, was going to be a lot easier, really, than the pain of actually leaving. And that turned out to be wrong. I stayed because I felt like I didn't have a choice. I felt like that my voice didn't matter. And that's because I was taught growing up that it didn't. I stayed out of duty because I was taught that once you were married for life. And I was taught that if I left, then God was going to punish me and throw me into hell for eternity. And that I would never be able to get married ever again, that I was just stuck. And the conditioning from him was no one was ever going to love me or treat me like he was, because he thought that he treated me the best, which was all crap. And after many, many years of abuse, eventually I believed it. And because of my childhood trauma and all the things that I had grew up being conditioned to believe, it was kind of just acceptable. Like, who would want somebody that was that broken? Like, who would want to be with somebody that just was just so fucked up? I mean, there was so much pretending that I had to do. Like, I was always putting on like this happy face, like, oh, we're such a happy family, going to church and smiling in front of his parents, like everything's fine. Like inside, I was dying. Like I was dying on the inside. Like I was ready to pull my skin off dying. Like I was I was just so miserable. And at the same time, I was so afraid. And I was walking on eggshells all the time. Like I had to walk on eggshells because if I said the wrong thing, if I did the wrong thing, if I spent money somewhere that I shouldn't have spent money, or if I went to my sisters or my brothers or my moms or whatever it was I was trying to do at that time, like there was some type of animosity that came behind it. And after all the years, it's really hard to explain to somebody what all of that trauma and all of that, like depriving yourself and not feeling your emotions, it's really hard to explain how that affects your body, but it does. And it's not just how it affects your body, it also how it affects your mind. You know, throughout this entire process, like the whole marriage, like you lose. I lost so many pieces of myself. And I had no idea that I had lost so many pieces and all these pieces were gone for me until I was out of the situation. I mean, I had no idea. There were things that I didn't even know about myself when I got out, like things that I used to love and enjoy that I hadn't loved and enjoyed for years, like painting. I loved to paint, and I hadn't painted in years. And then when I finally did get out of the relationship, I did paint. And I thought, wow, I really love that. And the truth is, there wasn't really one moment that ever made me leave in particularly. It was the thousands and thousands of moments that I was being attacked or I was being verbally abused, or the moments that I remember sitting in the bathroom crying my eyes out in the shower because I didn't want him to hear me cry and mock me, or the thousands of times that I looked in the mirror and I couldn't recognize who I was anymore because before I met him, I felt like I was a whole person. So one day, I couldn't take it anymore. I remember the day that I actually left. I had just moved to a new house. I just bought a new house. I was working 5 jobs. I was so busy all the time. Oh my gosh. He would sit home and play video games, and our marriage had been destroyed for years for all these other reasons as well. You know, not just the abuse, like he cheated, he lied, the list goes on. But I had somebody that came into my life probably 3 months prior to that. And this person is now my husband, but he became a friend and a sounding board. And he knew what was going on. And he started, I guess, feeding me confidence in myself again. Like, why are you allowing these things to happen to you? Why do you feel you deserve these things? Do you think this is the way that you're meant to be treated? Do you think this is the way that love is? And he started opening my eyes to the reality of my own situation. And I had to ask myself those questions like, there's no way that this is supposed to be a relationship. And before I had ever met my now husband, my prayer to God was, God, if my life was supposed to be like this for the rest of it, then I wanted to die because I was just that miserable. And I was afraid that was all my life was ever going to be, was just being abused and working my butt off and just taking care of a man that was abusing me. And like, why he got to sit on his ass and play video games 24/7. That was supposed to be my life? No. So when my now husband came into my life and he asked me all these questions, and he like opened my mind to the possibility of a different life, a new life, and that I deserved more than what I was getting. Like I clung to that. I did. And I clung to that because it was a possibility of something better, deeper, real that was mine. I had a choice. Like he gave me a choice for a choice that I felt like I didn't have. So I left. I literally packed everything in my car. I think it was like in June or July. Packed everything that I had in my car that I could fit in my car. And I stuffed it with like a couple bags of clothes, I think. I had a big tote bag of like clothes and makeup, and then the sad part was I had a whole nother bag of just medicine, anxiety medicines that the doctor had given me. And I went to North Carolina and I left. And I remember the day that I left, I was driving to North Carolina and I remember being petrified, absolutely petrified, because I had no idea. I didn't know how to not live in chaos or destruction or abuse. Like, I didn't know how all that worked. And I didn't have any answers to anything. I didn't even have a plan. I just knew that if I walked back in to my old life, then I was eventually going to disappear in it. And because of my now husband, he saved me in that particular way. I wanted a different life. I left because I wanted something different for myself. And I wanted a life that I didn't need saving from. I wanted to save myself. I wasn't sure how. And truthfully, living didn't fix everything for me. It was really hard because there was trauma bonding, there was emotional bonding that I was dealing with. It was lonely for me because my whole life had been nothing but chaos and I did not know how to function in quiet. But it was a life that I was trying to learn and build to be mine. It was my choice. It was my peace and it was my freedom. So I want to tell you this. If you are watching this today and you're wondering if it's time for maybe you to reevaluate your current relationship or your situation, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I will tell you this. You do deserve to feel safe. You deserve to feel loved. You deserve to feel appreciated. You deserve love that doesn't come with fear. You deserve that. And do not settle for anything less than that. And the longer that you stay in a situation that you could be in that's not good for you, the more years that you have to take to rebuild everything in you that could have been traumatized. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes for you to hear your own voice. I left after 14 years. And I've been out now for almost 5, and I'm still finding myself in all of the trauma and the abuse and overcoming all of those things. And I promise you it's not going to be easy, but it absolutely will be worth it.